So I'd just like to do a quick acknowledgement of country. So we acknowledge the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, who are our traditional owners of the land we live and work on. And we pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging, as well as elders from other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities who are present here today. I acknowledge the traditional custodians of the various lands on which we all live on today and the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people participating in this meeting. I know that we're all on different lands as well, so we acknowledge the traditional owners on the various lands that we're on here today.
Well, thank you very much, Grace. So welcome everybody. Thanks for taking the time to join us. So today's presentation is going to be around the GradWise program, what we do in terms of trying to increase the graduate outcome rates for students who are managing a disability. So first, the setup is going to be, I'm going to take you through our service delivery model. Then I'm going to hand over to Chadi and Grace, who are going to do a deep dive on how the program looks in your first 6 months and pretty much try to tie it out with a continuum of some sort, and then the outcomes that you should expect after that upon graduation. So I'll probably just share my screen now if you give me one. There we go. Excellent. So our problem statement while we were thinking about this program was how can we really impact the gap between mainstream, if I can use that terminology, and the students who are living with a disability. As we all know, any graduate or entry-level positions, the application process is very, very competitive. And, you know, we also want to ensure that the employers, you know, understand that people who have a lived experience with disability can equally perform as those who are called mainstream. So this is a partnership between GradWise, which are parent companies, Wise Employment, and various Australian universities that we work with. Now, our program is a reach-in program, and what I mean by that is we're actually based within different campuses, so you don't have to travel to come and see us, and all the engagement and the coaching happens within the campus. Now, so as I mentioned before, the program is designed to help students with a disability develop and thrive and thrive in a graduate employment environment. While we were designing this program, I think 2 years ago, we spent a lot of time with industry trying to understand what employers are looking for in a graduate, and most importantly, what makes a graduate successful once they get into employment. Now, based on that intel that we were given, we designed the GradWise program. The employer group that we looked at, there are 4 employer groups, right? So we look at the public sector, the public listed companies, the for-profit and non-for-profit. As we all appreciate, all of them have different types of requirements, pressure points, KPIs, goals, and cultures. And as you'll all be aware, you know, we have students from all disciplines apart from medicine. So we had to understand the cultures of these organizations and what they're looking for. So based on that intel, we developed the GradWise program. Now, there's 282 disabilities that are recorded, and those are pretty much just the baseline. And then from that, there's intersectionality or comorbidity, depending on which phrase you prefer. So it's absolutely important that the program was not a one-size-fits-all type of program. And so it's very individualized, and, you know, because as you know, everybody is different. Now, in terms of the graduate, our service delivery, there's 4 parts to it. What we're trying to do here, ladies and gentlemen, is we're trying to develop something we're calling our student passport. And this student passport, we want to be able to give this information to an employer whilst we are negotiating or advocating on your reasonable adjustments during the application process, and also once you commence work. So the first part of the service delivery model is the assessment stage. So the first assessment that we will take people through is around behavior profile. It's really important for an employer to understand who the individual is, how best to communicate with them, how best to give them directives, and how best to situate them within teams. Because if you do that, then you're ensuring that the particular individual can perform better. Communication is key. If I can use an example of somebody who's on the spectrum, and it is a very broad assumption as well, because we all know the reason why it's called a spectrum is because everybody is different. But if you can say, if somebody who's on the spectrum could be suffering from anxiety as well, putting them in a team where there's a lot of extrovert probably is not the ideal. How you communicate with somebody who is very analytical, how you give them directives is also very important. If somebody is detailed, then you want to give them as much information for them to be able to perform their duties. The second assessment we will take people through, pretty much it's an internal WISE assessment, and this is pretty much around understanding your disability requirements. The third assessment is what we call our brain and body optimization. So this tool, it's an incredible tool. It's all about, as I say, they're optimizing your brain and body system and unblocking high performance. So this is a neurozone type of coaching. So we are coaching from a neuroscience perspective. It's all about the whole holistic being, basically what we look at is we look at 10 drivers that we believe that if an individual looks after or optimizes, then they're going to be able to be more resilient. The self-leadership is going to be of a high rate. They're going to have an increased learning capacity, and also an innovation capacity is going to be increased as well. So these 10 drivers are divided into 3 groups. The first group is your foundational drivers. Now, your foundational drivers, we're going to be looking at things such as your exercising if you can. We're going to be looking at nutrition. We're going to be looking at sleep-wake cycle. And we're also going to be looking at silencing the mind. If I can take the example of the sleep-wake cycle, more often than not, people think, sleep is just so that you can, your body's tired, you're going to sleep. So you need to sleep so you're not fatigued the next morning. But if you peel a few more layers down, when you're sleeping is pretty much where a majority of the decision making happens, where memory is created. And so it's really important for you to have those 7 to 8 hours in order to continue building on those memories and innovation ideas as well. If we look at silencing the mind, it's really important to be able to, the way the mind works, obviously we're trying to, it's good, so it's supposed to move us away from danger. If you go back again to the person who's managing an anxiety, if you walk into a new environment, walking into a new environment is stressful, or just for anybody, that's just a baseline. But how do you manage any perceived threats? How do you react to that? And, if you can react to that and manage that, then it's easier for you to assimilate into a new environment. And that is one of the really important parts when you start into a new job, and that ensures that you're able to adapt and to any particular culture you walk into. The next group of drivers that we look at, so these are your emotional drivers. So unfortunately, people who have lived experience have had some negative experiences along the way, which is unfortunate. But how do we cope with our social safety? How do we look at our goal-directedness? How do we look at our collective creativity? How can we ensure that our students or our graduates are armed with tools that will enable them to have that sense of belonging when they walk into a new environment? And that's absolutely key, because the moment you feel that you have a sense of belonging, then more often than not, you're going to be able to perform in that particular situation. We also have to try and find a way where we can reduce some of the negative thought patterns that may come through based on our past experiences. So looking at your emotional drivers is absolutely crucial as well. The third category of the drivers that we're talking about, so we're looking at the executive or the higher order drivers. So we're going to be coaching our students or graduates on executive functioning, learning capacity, and abstraction. we believe that if we manage, as I'd mentioned earlier on, these 10 drivers, then the self-leadership is going to be much, much higher. Your innovation capacity is going to be increased as well. And this is key for, remember, we're trying to make sure that you're thriving and you're successful once you get into a graduate position. Your learning capacity is going to also be increased. When you walk into a new environment, a new organization, you will have a lot of learning that you have to do, so that is really important as well. Resilience is going to be increased as well. So one of the things that employers have told us is they're always looking for somebody who's more resilient, somebody who's adaptable. That is the ideal candidate for them. That is a candidate who more often than not will thrive in a new environment. So one piece of advice I always want to part with is that if you look back when you're studying or what you're studying, you are studying the same discipline, if I can use the terminology again, as mainstream. You are getting similar marks, if not better, whilst at the same time managing your disability, managing when it flares up. To me, that is a definition of somebody who's resilient. So whenever you walk into any interview, whenever you walk into new work environment, please have that in the back of your mind that you already demonstrated your resiliency, but just the mere fact that you're graduating and applying for these roles. So pretty much that's in summary. When we look at those 10 drivers, manage those 10 drivers, we're going to be optimizing our brain and body systems and unlocking high performance. The fourth assessment that we'll take you through is around your employability audit. This is key. Obviously, we have to make sure that you'll be able to perform the inherent duties of a particular organization or role. We tell our employers we're not here to try and circumvent the application process, because doing that is going to be one, undermining and setting a low expectations for our cohort. We believe that you can do the job. We believe that you can thrive in this particular, whichever roles that you get to. All we need to do is ensure that the application process is fair, and you have those opportunities to be able to put your best foot forward. So with regards to employability audit, one thing that I forgot to mention about our program is, apart from being a reach-in service, we engage with the students ideally from the penultimate year. So we have a year and a bit to work with you to ensure that you build those employability skills that will make you very, very competitive when you get into the interview stage. Now, the employability, how it works pretty much is we look at a particular organization, a particular role, what are those expectations? Once we understand that, we reverse engineer and try and make sure that we build those skill sets that the employer is going to be looking for. So how do we build these skill sets? We engage in terms of mentorships. We engage in terms of traineeships. We engage you with part-time work that is aligned to that job that you're looking for. One of what this does, apart from ensuring that you have those employability skills the employer is looking for, it also works as an opportunity for you to build a network. So you're introducing yourself to the employer is also, and it works vice versa. And what we have seen to date is the students who have gone through this continuum, where they've done a mentorship, they've done an internship, even done a part-time work, more often than not, it has created a linear trajectory from where they are straight into the graduate positions. Now, reasonable adjustments, this is absolutely important. I cannot stress this enough. The challenge that we face is when you're meeting somebody for the first time, when you're applying for a particular role for the first time, it is very difficult to disclose, because disclosure, you're opening yourself up. And the disability or whatever it is that we're managing, it's something very personal. So, we have to make sure that, the organization that you're applying for or disclosing to have, we use the terminology disability confident employers. We also make sure that they have a really good disability action plan. We also make sure that once you get into that particular organization, you will have the support structure in place to ensure that you thrive. So when you're working with us, we will always make sure that whichever employer that we put you forward to meet those criteria. But in terms of reasonable adjustment, it is your right to make sure that you have all the tools that you need. One of the things that has become very clear along the way is that, the environment is what needs to change for the individual who's managing a disability, not the other way around. And the employers are willing to do this. And, the adjustments that we've been putting in place at the moment, the employers have received it very well. Because also one thing you also have to remember is we are 1 or 2 degrees of separation from knowing somebody who has a lived-in experience. We encourage you to disclose so that we can have those reasonable adjustments put in place for you. But rest assured, my colleagues and I, we will work with you through the disclosure, the sharing with particular employers. Now, based on the assessments that we will run through, so we get that intel. Remember, again, we're trying to create a student passport. We're trying to demonstrate a body of work to the employer to make sure that, one, they see your potential, 2, they see that you actually have passion because you have committed to doing X amount of, activities that is aligned with the organization or the duties or the role. So based on that, remember, I'd also mentioned that is very individualized. We have a large menu of activities that the student and the coach will work on over their penultimate year or 6 months or however long we're working with you. So this includes, talking about disclosure. This includes the part-time work, as I'd mentioned. Clubs and extracurricular involvement is important as well. This is trying to increase that your sociability, if I can say that, building more on networks as well. Brain and body optimization tool, the Neuron tool, I spoke about that. Employability audit, job search applications, we will be working with you. It's a partnership to ensure that we achieve the successes that we need. Now, one other thing that we do as well is we invite industry to come in and share with us the application process, which Chadi and Grace are going to touch on a little bit later. But from mine, we believe that practice makes permanent. The more times we expose you to the psychometric testing, the assessment center, the video interviewing processes, the more comfortable you will get with it. And by the time you get into doing the real video interview, you'll be more comfortable. And I think your performance is going to be better. World of work, reasonable adjustment, as I mentioned, employer targeted marketing, so like I mentioned, we reverse engineer. There are a lot of industries out there. We are more than happy to reach out on your behalf and introduce you to employers. Internship, work experience, as I'd mentioned. Now, the third part of our service delivery is obviously we expect to achieve some success. Then you will be starting work. Now, getting you to the job is getting you to the starting line, we believe. Ensuring that you're successful and performing once you get into work is equally important because that's going to be a long term, there's a longevity attached to that. As I'd mentioned, disclosure, we work with you to disclose to the employer. We work with you, the hiring manager or the diversity and inclusion manager, to ensure that we have the right supports, reasonable adjustments for you. It's also about setting milestones with you to ensure that you're adjusting well. For us, we obviously want you to be as independent as possible, but we also do understand working into a new environment, we may need some intensive support in the beginning and then need to taper off as time goes by. We work with you for a minimum of a year once you get into work. And, we expect that by the time somebody's been in a role or an organization in a year's time, then the assimilation has happened, they've adapted into that culture and, and they're thriving. And at that stage, they join the GradWise alumni. And this is really important for us as a program as well, because our GradWise alumni always come back and present to the students who are about to go through the same journey. And I think that storytelling is really powerful. And, I think it's it's a testament to the appetite that's out there from industry to try and work with students from our cohort and, make sure that they have the same opportunities that everybody has. So in a nutshell, that is the high level summary of our service delivery regards to GradWise. Any questions, any additions, any subtractions? Caroline, Gail?
Yes, my name is Carolyn, and
Yes.
I'm studying at Southern Cross University down in Lismore, New South Wales. I'm studying a Bachelor of Arts, but I've also graduated from a Bachelor of Trauma and Healing in 2018. And I got credit average, but like I'm got disability at the university. I also get a disability pension. And the thing is I'm frustrated with is, I tend to, not have the supports to be able to get into graduate programs and internships, work experiences, paid, unpaid. So would I go on your website and apply and be a member as the alumni to be able to, because I've had a quick look on your website and to be able to access that program, and is there any cost involved from my end?
There's no cost. The good thing is there's no cost attached to our program at all. And definitely we will encourage you to jump on our website and register, and then one of us will reach out, and then we will try and work with you around getting those internships, those mentorships, because unfortunately we need to show those employers that body of work to make sure that you're successful as well. So in terms of the supports, look, we only know what you know, and at times all these supports that are there are not as obvious because there's a whole lot happening when you're on campus, right? You have exam periods coming on, you have assessments due, you have, you name it, everything is happening at the same time. But we are more than happy to work with you and take some of that workload off you in terms of looking for those industries that's aligned with what you're studying, Caroline.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll do that. I'll get on to the website and join the alumni membership.
Yeah, definitely. We're looking forward to having you.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Any other questions, additions?
I've just popped the website in the chat box there, if anyone wants to follow that.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say, Edward, how impressed I am. That's just amazing. I think similar to Carolyn, I've been involved with Disability Employment Service in the past, and they were pretty much operating as a job network agency where they just had to get you into any kind of work. They didn't really care. They were not considerate at all to what was actually going on. They would start out that way, but then you could see the pressure going on them of like, we've got to get you into a job rather than, but what you've laid out there is phenomenal. I mean, I'd love to work for you guys. That's just absolutely brilliant. And you also support people in Queensland.
Yes. So thank you, Gail. So we have a national footprint. The only place we are not involved in is Perth for now, and maybe it has to do with the time zone. I don't know, but eventually we will get there. I think I'm funny at times, but clearly no. I apologize. But thank you for your feedback, Gail. And we, like I said, it's really important that we support and coach and really put that time in to ensure that you have those employability skills that's required. And it cannot be a rushed job. It takes time, so I completely understand where you're coming from. And that is why we designed this initiative, just to ensure that for somebody who's graduating, somebody who spent all that time learning and investing, they get the right support to move them into the next stage of their career.
That's absolutely fantastic. I guess my next question is how do you go with mature age students? So very well. Like myself, who are not very young. I look younger than my actual age.
No, look, it's all about balance, right? If you walk into any organization, you want that organization to be balanced, be it in gender, we'll look at diversity and inclusion, right? And age is something that I think comes with experience, and that experience is invaluable. You know what I mean? So we have mature age graduates and students that we're working with. So we have some expertise in that area as well.
That's fantastic. I will definitely be signing up and contacting you.
Thank you. I think there's something else on the chart. Okay, cool. Yeah, you do look young, Gail. Okay, great. Thank you, Caroline. Anyway, so what I'll do now is I'll probably hand over to Chadi and Grace, who are going to do a deeper dive into what your first 6 months should look like once you engage with GradWise.
You just
Let me unmute myself. Yep. Thank you so much for that. I guess what Charlie and I will be going over is, I suppose, some of the aspects that Edward has gone over, but just sort of delving into it in a little bit more detail in regards to the first 6 months. But before we jump in, I might give you a bit of an introduction to myself and Charlie. So I'm a career coach here at GradWise. I've been with GradWise for coming out to about a year now. I think it's a year next month. But prior to that, I've had experience in sort of recruitment and predominantly working within graduate recruitment. So it's nice to sort of bring those sort of
good.
skills together to GradWise as well. But I might hand over to you, Charlie, to do a little bit of a introduction to you, and then we'll jump on with the rest of the presentation.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Chadi. So I'm the program manager here at GradWise, which is a lovely title. I have been here since 2018. I've been lucky enough to be working with this program just sort of as it began to start with Matt, the CEO of Wise Employment, and Asano. And my background, I've done recruitment, and I've also a qualified psychotherapist as well as a neuro trainer. So this is a very exciting space for me to work in.
Amazing. So we'll jump in. So what we're going to be going over, as I mentioned, is the first sort of 6 months of the program. So I suppose the best way to start is to have an initial meeting. So that basically will be an opportunity for you to meet one of us, so your career coach. So everyone will have one sort of career coach that they'll work with, I suppose, directly, but we generally work really collaboratively as a team. So you'll generally see our faces here and there, but the initial appointment will be, be able to give an introduction to our program, get to know a little bit more about you, what it is that you've studied, what you're sort of looking for, and obviously a chance for you to meet your consultant. The next aspect is the employability audit. So as you can see here, it's basically about creating a tailored plan to sort of map out your career, your dream career, and help to create sort of a CV and a bit of a roadmap to sort of get to that ideal position that you're looking for. So one of the main ways that we do this is sort of a career mapping exercise. So what we normally get students to do is think about the job that they might want, what their dream job is, or the job that they want in 5 years' time, for example, and work backwards. And it's a lot easier to sort of work backwards than working, then you can, I suppose, identify what skills that it is that you need, and how best you can get those skills to get to that dream job. And it's also about sort of mapping out, I suppose, different organizations that you might want to work for, or different industries as well. So creating a bit of a plan of how you're going to sort of get to that dream career or work for that dream organization. And we also help students with creating a CV. So we help students with doing a tailored CV. So we'll be helping with the layout for the CV, drafting CVs. I suppose a lot of students that we work with already have a CV. So sometimes it's just sort of going over that and making sure that it is sort of competitive and sort of is being able to be presented the best way that it can to potential employers. Another aspect that we also have every month is what we call GradWise Masterclasses. And I know Edward mentioned this a little bit earlier in regards to an opportunity to meet potential employers and different industry partners that we have. But we have a GradWise masterclass every month, and they'll be based on a different topic. And basically what the whole point of these different masterclasses are is to help focus on a particular area that you might need help with, or something that you just to sort of help sort of develop some of your skills. So some of the previous masterclasses that we've had, for example, is reasonable adjustments. We've had a range of different industry presenters come and talk about their graduate program, what they're looking for in graduates, and different tips and tricks for how to put your best application forward for some of the graduate program. So we've had presenters like Telstra, PwC, Victoria Government, Accenture, Melbourne Writers Festival and Coles come to some of our previous masterclasses. But apart from the industry presenters, we also help with different interview techniques. It could be helping with interviews, video interviews, and really just sort of depending on what it is that the students are after, we can generally tailor the different masterclasses that we have, to suit what it is that students are looking for at that time. And we also have a GradWise Live. So our GradWise Lives, we try to make them a little bit more informal than our masterclasses. So I suppose the way that we like to describe it is your masterclass would be like a lecture, and the GradWise Live is sort of like a tutorial. So it's a bit more interactive. Jonathan normally hosts them and does some trivia. So it's a really fun way for you to sort of get to know some of the other students that are a part of the program, because a lot of the students that we work with, they do sort of sometimes feel like they're alone, and they don't have the sort of networks there to direct them where it is to go. So meeting some other students, it can really help to know that you're not alone, and you do have that sort of support network. Obviously you have it from us, but from other students as well. Students share about some different maybe tips that they have found that's been useful for them in some of the different interviews, or some students share interview questions, which is really handy for other students that are also interviewing for those organisations as well. But as I said, it's more of a fun place to get to know other students. This Friday we're actually tomorrow I should say, it's Thursday today, so tomorrow we're actually having a fancy dress GradWise Live. So just something to keep it a bit fun and interesting. So that's sort of the GradWise Lives in a nutshell. And then we have our peer support. So it's basically connecting students to each other. So we predominantly do this in I suppose different sessions that we have, but then also similar to what Edward has mentioned about alumni. So having students that have gone through the program, have gotten graduate positions, to come and share their story and help other students. And a lot of the time that sort of lived experience and other students sort of saying, this is what really worked for me, these are the things that I struggled with, this didn't help, but this really did. It helps to sort of guide students and tie into the sort of peer support in that community that we're trying to build as part of GradWise. But that's sort of the first couple of points in a nutshell, but I'll hand it over to Chardy now, who's going to be going over some of the other aspects of the first 6 months.
Sure. So this is the Neurozone coaching. So I could probably talk to you all about this for about 2 hours, but I'll rein it in. And it's all about, and I know Asano touched on it before, it's all about doing that brain-body optimization coaching to work with the 10 foundational drivers. And what happens is you actually get linked to a Neurozone coach who's one of our team members, and they take you through, it's like an hour or 2 hours a week for 6 to 10 weeks. And we take an assessment at the start, and then we create this beautiful, personalized, individualized coaching plan for you for the next 6 to 10 weeks. And we take you through it to get you to your optimal brain body, thrivability. And then at the end of it, we take another assessment and we show you how far that you've come and what else we need to work on. Because when we do this, we're not just creating a quiz, it's not a fad, we're actually creating a lifestyle change for you. And as we've done this, we've had people that have had that are going obviously through their last year of school, and they're getting HDs, their GPA's up, and if their GPA's up, it means they're an absolute shoo-in for the graduate programs as well as it's creating this beautiful life pattern for when you first start into employment, which can be absolutely terrifying, and it's creating all those beautiful patterns that you're going to need to be able to thrive in there. Sorry, Grace, could we go to the next one?
Yeah.
My assistant, Grace.
Yes.
And I know that Asano touched on this before, but these are the 10 drivers that we have. So exercise, we all know, is really important. Nutrition, sleep, wake cycle, and silencing the mind. So there are 4 foundational ones there. And we know that if we have that, if we don't have to put any extra energy into those 4 foundationals, we can start using that energy that we were using to just get through the day because we weren't getting enough sleep, just getting through the day because our anxiety was on top of us, just getting through the day because we weren't nourishing our bodies the right way, or using it to create more energy. If we can, it's called foundational for a reason, because once we have those down pat, we can actually build what we need to build on top of it. So once we have those, then we can pour energy into those beautiful emotional drivers and then into the higher order drivers, which makes the whole of the Neurozone coaching system, which gets you to that thrivability that you need to be able to achieve anything that you want in life. And that is actually added into that career mapping that we do right at the start, because we need to know how to get you there. This is the vehicle that's going to help you get there as well. So like I said, quite passionate about this one. Grace, can we go to the next one?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, and then of course, and this is something that Carolyn and also Gail touched on as well, the mentorships and the internships. So it's really important that we're working on this body of work while you're still at school. And we know that that can be really stressful because you're in your last year. And we 100% get that. And that's why we're trying to take all that stress away from you and actually link in to all those beautiful industries and employers that we have a relationship with. Our partner company is Wise Employment, and Wise Employment's been around for 25 years. So we can go in and raid all their employers all the time, which is fantastic. So your mentorships and your internships, the mentorships are really important because all the career coaches here at GradWise they've got different experiences. They've come from all different walks of life and all different walks of employment, but you need a mentor who's done what you need to do, that's walked the path that you want to walk. And so for us, finding you a mentor is absolutely invaluable. And then we're on our internships. So internships we know are really important because it gives us that industry experience to make sure that we're on the right path. Thanks, Grace.
Not a very good assistant with these slides.
And then we've got our all-important shadow day. So this is wonderful because we've actually gone into industry and created this day. So we had one that was very successful with the city of Port Phillip. And we had, I think there was about 10 or 12 of our students that came through, and they were actually matched with people that were really high in their industry. And we actually had one person shadow the CEO for the day. So as you can imagine, they were quite happy with that. And now they're linked together on LinkedIn. And, you know, he made a beautiful comment once that he had graduated as well. So it's really building that network as well. And that shadow day is perfect for helping you build your network, seeing what else you can do with your career. Because I know a lot of us study things that are quite broad, and we've got a lot of transferable skills as well. So, you know, going to those shadow days, internships and mentorships might sort of shift your focus a little bit as well. And that's something that we can help you with as well. So after we've done that massive body of work that we completely support you with, then we're ready for graduate applications. And the masterclasses that Grace was thanks, Gail. The masterclasses that Grace was talking about before as well really go through these graduate applications. We had reasonable adjustments, networking, video interviewing, psychometric testing. Not so much now because we're trapped in COVID, so we don't have to do the assessment centers, but the assessment centers online as well. So, you know, and the video application as well. So we're really going through all that. And for you to have a network of people behind you, your mentor, you know, the people that you meet for your internship, you've got your career coach, you've got the industry that come and present at our masterclasses, then for you to be able to put in your graduate application is going to make you that much more advanced than other people who are putting in their application as well. So you've really got that team around you to push you to where you want to go, which is invaluable. And that's the first 6 months in a nutshell. I know it sounds like a lot, but it really isn't. We're there to help you every single step of the way. Grace, next slide, please. I think Grace might be frozen. Anyway, I'd like to open it up now to, does anybody have any questions? No questions. I'm just going through.
No, there's one. Great. So there's one. If we just go through the charts.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So there's a question there that is there any scope for international students because our website eligibility is for permanent residency and or citizenships. We actually do. Yes, do you want to take that question?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes. We can work with international students. We do. We have a pro bono that we work with GradWise as well, because we're about inclusion, and inclusion means everyone. So it just depends how you're over here. Are you over here on a student visa? Are you over here on a protection visa? Are you? It would just depend. So if you'd like to go down into our landing page and then fill out our GradWise inquiry, we will give you a call and we will go through step by step, just so we can work out, just to make sure that we're the right program for you as well. If you'd like to be part of the pro bono list, are you wanting to extend your student visa? Is there something that we can do around that as well? So the whole thing about GradWise is it's an individual program. So if you'd like to reach out to us, I know Jonathan's put the link down there, and just put in an inquiry. We'll get somebody to set aside a time and we'll go through all your individual needs. I hope that answers your question.
Great. Thank you, Chadi. We also have another question around the Neurozone coaching tool. Does the Neurozone coaching tool help with game assessment or the assessment recruitment process?
It certainly does, because as we get into, once you do the assessment, the questionnaire takes about 20 minutes, and it's absolutely fabulous. It's got all sorts of questions on there that you could never imagine that you would need to have assessed, like what side of the bed do you sleep on, as well. But there's a reason for that, sort of when you come to the end of it, and it spits out this beautiful interactive report that we're able to coach you on as well. So, and the reason that I'm telling you about this is because in the higher order section, there are brain games. Okay, and while we're training on brain games, what we're actually doing is the neuroplasticity for the synapses is actually going to reattach in different areas of the brain, which is going to be better for gamification as well. So please let me know if you have any more questions about that, because I could talk about it for about 2 hours. So
Excellent.
Sorry, guys, you lost me there for a little bit, but I'm back. Hopefully, I haven't missed too much.
Yeah, no, we're just answering a couple of questions. Welcome back, Grace. So another question is how do we apply? Obviously, we've already spoken about that. Jonathan just put a link with regards to signing up. Are there any other questions and or additions? If I can quickly ask the people who have attended, how many of us are about to graduate maybe this year or next year?
I'm graduating next year, end of next year.
End of next year. Great. So that ties in very well with how our service delivery is done. So I believe if we work with you from now, do all those employability audits, introduce you to industry through mentorships, do all those internships. By the time you're graduating at the end of next year, I think your application will be very, very strong. Mm-hmm. Okay, I've also, somebody else has put in a comment, an Australian permanent resident currently living in Australia or temporary.
Okay, so that's actually on our GradWise landing page. But as I was saying before, everyone's an individual and everyone's unique. So, and I can see that you're graduating next year as well. So if you'd like to just put through an application, I'll be able to set up a time and have a chat with you, and we can just go through your options together. Excellent.
Neil, I also see that you're graduating mid next year. Perfect. The timing couldn't be better, so we will start working. And the good thing about, hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll have gone past the COVID cloud by then, but the good thing about industry, what they're telling us now is, even though the employment market is shrinking, industry is still pushing through with the diversity and inclusion aspects of their job. So you may read in the papers or watch news or your phone, and what do you call it? Like, I don't know, KPMG has let go X amount of people, but I assure you the conversation that we're having with them is the diversity and inclusion lane is still being adhered to, especially our cohort. For example, if I take Victoria as an example, currently the target for students, for the graduates, the intakes, the workers should be 6% of their workforce should reflect to having a disability. If this is going to double up to 12% by, I think, 2023, so you can see there's a lot of work that needs to be done. And this industry, we are partnering with them to help them in this place. Sorry, just trying to see the next question.
I think also just adding on to that in regards to organisations wanting diversity, we have a lot of partnerships with different organisations, so we can also assist with, I suppose because we have those relationships with them, it's a lot easier for us to sort of help you when applying to some of these graduate programs, because we're able to, get the information from them of what it is that that they're looking for in graduates as well. And a lot of different organisations do have sort of disability pathways as well, just to sort of make sure that they are, sort of hitting those diversity targets and those sorts of things as well.
And the encouraging thing as well is none of our graduates who went through and were put through in graduate positions lost their positions. So everyone's been quite solid. So that sort of, backs up that statement that Asano was talking about, to say that, the diversity and inclusion space is 100% still open, even in a pandemic.
Sorry, I stepped out a little bit earlier, but there was a question earlier from Akila around GAME for the recruitment process, the psychometric testing, and whether Neurozone would assist.
I answered that like a champion.
Yeah. Oh, okay, good. Thank you. Sorry. I said I'd do it, but then I got a phone call and had to step out.
We will forgive you.
There's also another question here around, I think, Shama, you're graduating in December, international students. What do you recommend for me? So the good thing is there are few organizations out there that are willing to take international students as their graduate, for example, Telstra. So probably what you can do, again, just connect with us through the GradWise inquiry, and then we'll talk you through and look at different options that are there. It really depends on how long you're going to be staying as well. There's another good question that has come from Brian. With COVID, is everything online or done remotely, so to speak? Does anybody want to take that?
No, you go, Grace.
Okay.
I've been taking a lot of airtime.
So I suppose yes is the short answer to that. So we've actually changed our approach to be more online. So we'll be having quite a lot of Zoom and phone appointments and those sorts of things as well, to keep in contact with students. So pre-COVID, we were actually based on campus at different universities, but obviously now that is not possible. So we are, I suppose as a GradWise team, we are predominantly 100% online at the moment, but with different organisations and different graduate program recruitment at the moment, a lot of them have also changed to be online as well. So things like video interviews instead of face-to-face interviews, and a lot of organisations previously would do sort of group assessment centres, but obviously that's a little bit difficult to do now on a virtual platform. So a lot of organisations have started to do what they call like work task or like work simulation responses, that you'd be given a task that you would do once you're, in employment, like a real life task, and they get you to sort of complete this task and assess how you go, and doing more sort of, I suppose, practical based tasks rather than, group interviews that, that people might be doing prior to COVID, just because it's a little bit hard to assess people working in a group environment. I know, for example, on Zoom, you saw it just then, Charlie was going to talk and I was going to talk, and it was like, oh God. And having that in a sort of assessment center sort of environment, it can be a little bit hard to sort of gauge how people interact in a group. So a lot of organizations have actually changed their recruitment approach now to do sort of more actual task-based activities, which some students actually really prefer a lot more. You know, actually being able to do a task rather than having to do sort of a group interview. So that was a very long response, but yes, most things are online at the moment.
Thank you, Grace. We also have one from Mariam. She's graduated this year. Will be commencing further studies next month, thinking of doing some voluntary type of work. What is our recommendation?
I have to say it's up to what you're studying, up to what you want to get into, because you really need to focus on that early. So if you're studying, psychology, it would be great to get into Lifeline. If you're studying, 100% it depends what you want to do. So something like IT would be great if you were on ethical jobs, helping somebody build a website. So it just depends, because it needs to marry up. But a lot of the time as well, if you're doing, multiple subjects, or you're doing an art subject and you're not too sure where you want to go, to always do those volunteering things that are good for the soul. So the Meals on Wheels and things like that, where you're really engaging in that community environment, or in a community center sort of near where you want to work, or your own community center as well, so you can really build up those networks and connect with those people who are in your town and in an organization that you want to work in. So
I just add to that,
yeah.
add to it as well, Charlie,
Sure.
that volunteering offers an amazing ability for not just building your own personal growth, but when you come into job cover letters, applications, interviews, that you've got experiences that are beyond just studying that you can refer to, or just beyond just your part-time job as a student, that you can refer to and give examples and demonstrations of when you tell me about a time you worked in a team. Especially if you can combine a wonderful answer that with organisation's values and a skill that they're after. So they can believe about giving back to the community, and they're after teamwork, and you can marry those by talking about your volunteering and the teamwork you did there. So yeah, volunteering is an amazing way of doing it. Also, what we've found happens with volunteering as well, that an organisation really, really likes you, and they're going to do everything they can to try and help. And that might lead to employment with that organisation. Yeah. So yeah, there's some really great benefits beyond just the idea of volunteering and the good satisfaction, the good feelings, like Charlie mentioned. So yeah, I recommend it highly.
I think also just to add on to that as well, like if you have, for example, two candidates that have done the same degree, have the same experience, but you have had some volunteer experience and the other person hasn't, but in every other aspect you're on par. It's those little things that can get you across the line, and it makes you a little bit more competitive, because like graduate programs are so competitive. In my experience, there have been candidates that are amazing and we really wanted to offer them the job, but there just wasn't enough positions. And it wasn't because that candidate was a bad candidate, it's just because there wasn't enough positions. So all of those little extra things that you can do to sort of set you apart from other students, and it also shows that you care about your community and that engagement and those sorts of things as well, which is a really great quality to have, and a really great thing to bring to an organisation as well. So I think if you have capacity, I know some students already are a bit struggling with if they have to work and uni as well, but if you have capacity, I would definitely recommend it. And it doesn't have to be all the time. It could even just be once a month, or around Christmas time, help in a soup kitchen or something. So it doesn't have to be all the time, but trying to do it if you have capacity and when you can will be really beneficial.
Excellent. Thank you all. And just to add on to that, one of the key things employers are looking for is passion for their industry, passion for their organization. Trust me, if you're doing voluntary work, you're doing it because you're passionate for that. I don't do voluntary work because I'm bored. Thank you. Yeah, I think Jonathan answered that, but Brian was asking if there's any costs involved with the service. Does anybody want to take that?
Oh, there's no cost to you. It's completely free.
Yes, completely free. So we're sponsored by we get our funding through, we're self-funded, and also the Commonwealth chips in as well. So, but yeah, so I urge you to reach out. Let's see what we can do with you over the next few months or a year or so, and hopefully we can fast track and make you as competitive as possible for graduate positions. Excellent. So how do I get onto the GradWise? Excellent. Jonathan has just posted a link over there, Sauda. So just reach in, fill in a GradWise inquiry. I've already started seeing some inquiries coming through from this morning's session, which is very encouraging for us as well. So thank you. Excellent. If there's no other questions, then we'll probably wrap it up. And once again, on the behalf of my colleagues and I, we just want to thank you for taking time off your schedules, and most importantly, booking in to step into a booth and hear about our program. And I'm encouraged with the questions that you've asked, that we're going to be able to provide the supports that you need. So thank you. Have a good afternoon, and enjoy the day from wherever you may be logged in from.
See you, everyone. Thanks so much for coming.